Welcome, everybody, to the Field of 68 After Dark Top 25 and All-American preseason edition of our show. We have come to you with conference previews. We've come to you with hot takes. Now we're going to break down who we think are the top 25 teams in the country. I'm John Fanta. Rob Dauster's here. Terrence Oglesby is here and now wearing a cap. Jeff Goodman is here as well. And over the next hour, we're going to talk about all of the big national storylines across college basketball. Let's just start right away here with the top 25, with what we've got. We go to the top of our consensus, top 25, and the Field of 68 has the Alabama Crimson Tide as the number one team in America, with Kansas coming in at number two. Kansas is number two, back-to-back reigning national champions. UConn, number three. Houston at number four, and Iowa State at number five. So this is our consensus top 25. Jeff, I'll start with you as we look at the top of America. Are you in agreement that Alabama is deserving of number one?
I'm not vehemently in disagreement. I just have Kansas at one. I would say it's 1A and 1B, and I don't think you can go wrong with either one. I think Alabama's roster is a little bit deeper. They're banged up right now. I would say Kansas addressed all of the issues that plagued Bill Self and the Jayhawks a year ago, whether it's depth, whether it's perimeter shooting, whether it's ball creation, shot creation. I would say I like Kansas better only because, and again, I know – you don't have to say it, Rob, because you've already said it. This is nothing against Nate Oates, but Nate Oates is not Bill Self, last I checked.
Wow. That's the last thing I was expecting to hear on the show, is to Goodman come out here and take shots at Nate Oates, who's
I'm not taking a shot at him. He's awesome. He is awesome. But he's not a Hall of Famer.
Correct me if I'm wrong, T.O. Correct me if I'm wrong, T.O. But is Nate Oates coming off of a Final Four with a team that couldn't play any defense at all last season? And is he also, coming off an offseason where he went out and got the best defensive five, best rebounder, best rim protector that was available in the portal? And does he still have Mark Sears, the best point guard in America, coming back to school? And did he add a bunch of shooters? Like, are we talking about the same Nate Oates here? The last thing I expected here was Jeff Goodman calling his best friend Nate Oates a horrible coach. And that's where we are. This is unbelievable. I never thought I'd see the day.
The amount of lies being told on this network by one Robert Dauster is incredible. I mean, it is absolutely incredible.
I'm just saying.
The slander, T.O., is honestly, I can't deal with it anymore.
It's a reach. It's a reach. I'm going, guys, if I had to pick between the two, I would pick Kansas to be number one. And I feel like it has as much to do with the roster as it does how pissed off Bill Self is from January forward. And we kind of figured like he would hit the transfer portal with a vengeance, and boy, did he ever. You look at the roster from top to bottom, we know what Hunter Dickinson is, but they just didn't have enough depth last year. No longer an issue. I mean, worst case scenario, you got to play a freshman named Flory Badunga, who's good. As long as his motor's on, he's really, really good. Raquise Passmore might be the best freshman defender in college basketball. That's worst case scenario. Right. So you look at that roster from top to bottom, adding Zeke Mayo, just the depth of players that you can throw out on the floor on a given night. That's where I would give Kansas the edge. But guys, I mean, it's 1A and 1B. I know we have to go 1 and 2, but like Alabama's every bit as good. We'll see.
As long as Zeke Mayo isn't Justin Timberlake, we're good.
Justin Timberlake is. Yeah, Justin Timberlake. Well, he did score on Kenny Smith one time. I'll give you that.
Justin Timberlake probably could have shot better than Nick Timberlake a year ago.
Facts.
Well,
hey, look, let's not take shots. Let's not take shots at a guy who did his best. Okay, like he just wasn't good enough. But Justin Timberlake, Kansas fans would have rather seen Justin Timberlake. I think we should start there and finish there with the Timberlake slander. The other things are like I just feel like they're so deep. But what Alabama does too, Mark Sears is the best guard in college basketball right now. Between him and RJ Davis, it's right there. And so you look at his ability to create some of these passes that Mark Sears was making towards the back end of the year. Outstanding, absurd. Put an adjective in there that's grandiose, and he's part of it. So you look at what he's able to create with all the shooters around him. I think how quick Chris Youngblood can get back going after an injury that's going to have him out for the first part of the season. That's going to be a major factor. But you add a Morier into the mix. They needed rim protection. They didn't have it last year, and they still made it to the Final Four. So could Alabama win the national championship? Sure. Could Kansas? Sure. Right now, though, as long as they get AJ Storr going in Kansas, they're a tough cover.
That's the key.
That feels like the key. I think that certainly for Alabama, LeBaron Philon is to their gain. That's a good pickup for them. You've got Latrell Wrightsell. You've got Jaron Stevenson, who showed some real strides in the NCAA tournament. You're right. Last year, Jeff, I remember you talking to Mark Sears at one point in January on our network. And you were pretty candid in challenging them defensively. They were 111th in KenPom defensive efficiency, and they reached the Final Four last season. Just imagine what would happen if that defense, Jeff, became a top 50 unit.
Well, what they have is now they can go, when they get healthy, they can go 10 deep. So Nate can take out some dudes that aren't guarding, right? Like their second unit, honestly, might be ranked, Rob, in the preseason top 25 if they're healthy. And their second unit has higher upside. Those are guys that are more pros, Stevenson, Darion Reed, some of these other guys. But their first unit is just a really good group of college basketball veterans.
They got 5 guys that are probably going to start that are all fifth-year grad students. Mark Sears, Latrell Wrightsell, Grant Nelson, Cliff Amore, and when Chris Youngblood is back and healthy, all 5 of those guys are fifth-year guys. Yes. So, yeah, like I understand the Kansas love. They're going to be awesome. They're probably they are technically the favorite right now to win the national championship, according to our friends over at BetMGM. And, I mean, look, Hunter Dickinson, you got KJ Adams, you got DeJuan Harris, you got everything you need on that Kansas roster, and you got Bill Self. I get it. They're awesome. I think both teams – I would love to see – them face if we get that game in a national championship game in San Antonio in what?
That'd be amazing.
Exactly 5.5 months from today. Yeah, I think we'd all want that.
Everybody would sign up for it.
Let's fill out the rest of the top 10 here. Field of 68 consensus top 25 has Gonzaga at number 6, Baylor at 7th, Duke. The Blue Devils are ranked 8th ahead of North Carolina, who is 9. And then JP Pegues and the Auburn Tigers check in at number 10. Terrence Oglesby, are you in agreement with what the remainder of our top 10 looks like?
Heavy Big 12 lane, of course, rightfully so. But I'm sitting here and I'm looking at Gonzaga and Duke. I feel like Gonzaga has a real shot to end up in San Antonio and what they have on that roster. You could see kind of the excitement with them without being too verbose whenever we were there at Media Day. I'm really excited about what Gonzaga has to offer this final year in the WCC, or is it 1 year from now?
No, they got 1 more year after this. They leave in 2026.
1 more year after, yeah. So the last 2 years in the WCC, kind of their 2 victory laps, if you will. I think they're going to be really, really good. And Duke at 8, Duke's going to be the best team in the country in February. Like they're not right now. They're going to have to figure it out.
A little bit of a hot
is it really that hot? This is kind of where we're at right now. This is kind of where we're at right now with every Duke team. Like they're going to have extreme talent that's going to take them a second to figure it out. It takes John a second to figure it out, like what combinations work at Cameron Indoor. And then by February, it's like, oh man, these guys are all together. They're playing well at the right time. I think Duke also has very strong shot to get to San Antonio and actually win the national championship, because that blend of big, older guys, and when I say big, I mean wide, strong, Sion James, Mason Gillis, those guys, alongside these super talented freshmen in Cooper Flagg and Con Knippel, like special. Okay.
Can I play devil's advocate?
I think North Carolina might be a smidge high. I have them in the 10 to 15 range.
You do that well. So yes, of course you can play devil's advocate. Go ahead.
Here's what I will say is this is a team that 3 of their top 3 players are going to be freshmen. Their top 3 players who are because at this point we've said like Tyrese Proctor is a good basketball player, but he's not going to be what Rob Dauster told us he was going to be a year ago, which is the greatest player on the planet. Caleb Foster is a really nice college player. Yeah, Rob, I'm getting you back. I'm getting you back for that NATO slam.
Well, all I'm going to say is I was a lot closer to being right on Tyrese Proctor than somebody on this show was about Andre Curbelo. So if you want to go down that road, we can play that game if you want. I'm here for it. I got receipts too, Coach.
From the product, all right? That never happened, okay? Anyway, Tio, my only point is, like, in this day and age of the 5th, the COVID year for these kids, this is it. I just think still it's going to be difficult for a Duke team that's best 3 players are true freshmen. One is a reclassified freshman to win the whole thing this year. I agree they're going to be better. Like the team that I think honestly is kind of high in the preseason rankings, and we're giving them the benefit of the doubt because of one man, and that one man is the insane coach on the sidelines in Stores, Dan Hurley, and he's incredible. But I think we're giving them the benefit of the doubt, UConn, because of one Dan Hurley.
Yeah, and I think that they've earned the benefit of the doubt, right? Like nobody thought that they were on paper heading into the 2022-23 season. They didn't have a team that was good enough to win a national championship. They weren't even ranked in the preseason top 25. Last year, the consensus was this team's probably like a top 10, top 12 kind of a team. And it took us 2 weeks to realize, hey, you know what? Yeah, we might have messed that one up. We probably got that.
Klingham was hurt too. In our defense, nobody knew. Remember, the big question last year going into the year also was like, is the big boy going to be able to be healthy and stand up to a season last year?
Yeah, and he was, and it turned out well. And this year there are plenty of other questions there as well. Like you got new guys that are going to be asked to play new roles, going to be asked to play bigger roles. You got some transfers coming in that haven't played at this level before. So look, I get it. There's plenty of reason to doubt UConn this year. And I promise you that every single one of the people that brings this up, they're probably going to play this in the locker room tomorrow to let all these guys know, look, Jeff Goodman hates you. Rob Dauster hates you. All of these guys think you suck.
Nobody thinks that you hate them. Yeah. Nobody, everybody knows that you wear UConn, everything. I mean, from head to toe.
I will say this. They have very good video editors there, so I'm sure that they can clip some stuff together to make it sound like I'm saying lots of negative things. I just want to, I want to double down on what T.O. said though. Like I wish I'd gone first because I literally would have said I have Gonzaga 4th, I have Duke 5th, and I have UNC outside of the top 10. I don't need to rehash the whole everyone knows I worry about the defense, the rebounding for North Carolina. And T.O. kind of hit the nail on the head with everything he said about Duke. I just want to go back to Gonzaga though, because I feel like this is the year, right? Like I feel like this is the team where Mark Few can kind of get that monkey off of his back. He's got a 5th-year point guard in Ryan Nembhard, who's been around, who's seen some battles, who's had a deep run into the NCAA tournament, who knows how to play. Nolan Hickman had his best year as a college basketball player this past season. He's kind of figured it out. Graham Ike was 16-8 last year, and I don't think anybody realized how good he was down the stretch of the season. I think 7 straight 20-point games. And not even Drew Timme did that at any point in his career. They brought in Khalif Battle to kind of be that change of pace offensive weapon off the bench. They got Michael Ajayi, who is one of the most efficient scorers in college basketball that will allow them to play smaller if they need to, because he can play up and play the 4 if he has to. And if you guys remember, when we were there, right, we asked him, who has impressed you the most? It was Ben Gregg, it was Graham Ike, and it was Nolan Hickman. We asked them who has impressed them the most in practices in the summer and the fall, and every single one of them to a man said Emmanuel Innocente. And I don't think any of us even remember that Emmanuel Innocente had transferred. I don't think any of us had even heard of him before he committed to Gonzaga after leaving Tarleton State. I think you look at the depth, you look at the age profile, you look at the team that they've put together, the balance they have on this roster. I think Gonzaga is awesome. I think that if I had to pick right now, I'd probably say Gonzaga, Duke, Alabama, and Kansas are like the top 4, I would pick to win a national title right now.
So you didn't have wait, Gonzaga, Duke,
Alabama and Kansas, I think, are like the four that on paper have like put together the strongest rosters.
See, I just don't know about Duke because of the backcourt inconsistencies. It's hard. It's hard for me to get totally sold. We're talking national championship. I just think I trust Kelvin Sampson, even though that they've had back-to-back years of tough losses. Like we keep saying, we said this about Marcus Sasser. How are they going to do it? How are they going to do it? And then we said that we're saying this now about Jamal Shedd, and it just feels like, Jeff, and then we're going to break, that it's almost getting taken for granted because their name's not Kansas or Duke, right? Or UConn now, that we're talking every year, every single damn year. Houston's in the top 5. They came into the Big 12. We're like, how are they going to handle life in the Big 12? Well, they handled it with flying colors. They won the league.
Pretty well. They won the damn league.
Milo Suzon now. They bring back their starting front court. They've got LJ Cryer. Emmanuel Sharp apparently looks great down there. Like what they have become, Jeff, they're as much as a Gonzaga of like chasing the elusive title as anybody.
I think the big thing when you're putting together a preseason top 25 these days is and I've done this for a while now, but the last 5 years in particular, the really good coaches, you ride those guys. You ride them as far as being in that top 10, right? Like Hurley, Nate Oates, Kelvin Sampson, Bill Self. You know, I'm not sure Shire's there yet. Mark Few obviously is there. Scott Drew is there. So if they've got good enough rosters, you're going to elevate them into that top 10. And I think TJ Otzelberger is a guy that right now, again, we're sleeping on. We're sleeping on that team. We're sleeping on Tamin Lipsey and how good he is and the culture at Iowa State and the defense and the toughness and all of that and the buy-in to roles. That's a team that I just don't think enough people are talking about because, frankly, again, you got Kansas and Houston and Baylor in the same conference right now, and those are like sexier teams.
Here's what I would say to that, and Tio, I'm curious your opinion on this. Teams that are elite defensively like that, I think that you pencil them in as saying like, yes, they're going to be in the preseason top whatever, and they're going to be in and around the top 6, the top 8 all season long. They're going to have a chance to win a Big 12 title. But I just worry about what their upside is offensively, because I think at a certain point when you get into the tournament, it's a 6-game knockout tournament. Someone's going to catch fire one night. Do they have enough offense to be able to keep pace with a team that just decides, hey, you know what? No matter how good your defense is, we're going to make 13 threes tonight.
Terrence, quickly, because then we got to break.
Jefferson will help there, and then I'll go to Tio. Jefferson will help.
Yeah, you just wonder where we're going Iowa State now as far as what that Keyshawn Gilbert offensively is fine. Momcilovic is a good player offensively. I just sometimes you put so much emphasis on the defensive end of the floor that sometimes you forget about, hey man, I got to score on the other side too. I feel like Iowa State's their offense is going to be fine this year. I feel like they're well balanced. Josh Jefferson's a good player. You can kind of plug and play him where you need to, where he can handle the ball and create some offense from the top of the key. I'm a fan. I thought they got athletic. I think they have some scoring and returning. Can they score 75 points a night? That's my biggest question with Iowa State. I do think it's possible, but when you put so much emphasis on the defensive end of the floor, sometimes by the time you get down there, it's like, man, let's just buy one. We'll see what happens with Iowa State. I think they have enough.
Coming up next, we'll unveil the rest of our preseason top 25. Who's underranked? Who outside the top 25 is going to end up being ranked there? And who is overrated that could end up being a flop this season? This is After Dark.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners and the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to the Field of 68 After Dark preseason top 25 and All-Americans edition. John Fanta, Terrence Oglesby, Rob Dauster, and Jeff Goodman. Fellas, let's unveil the rest of our preseason top 25. Here we go from 11 to 25. We're just going to unveil every team, and then I'll get these guys' thoughts. So coming in at number 11, the Arizona Wildcats. Yeah, the Caleb Love show rolls on. Creighton, Stephen Ashworth, and Ryan Kalkbrenner at number 12. We'll talk about the Blue Jays here in a few moments. John Calipari in Arkansas at 13. We'll see how that works, and will DJ Wagner deliver? Tennessee at 14. Indiana at 15. Buy or sell the Hoosiers. We'll talk about that. Coming in at number 16, Purdue. The Boilermakers are 16. So, that does spark an immediate reaction. That does spark an immediate reaction. Jeff, would you have ranked Indiana over Purdue?
Probably not. Again, I'll go back to what I said, right before the break, which was coaches matter. And Matt Painter, to me, has proven himself as a college coach, right, who can build sustainability. Mike Woodson has not done that yet, not in the college ranks. So I would go Purdue. I would flip those two. But again, you're honestly at this point, it's a guessing game with most of this stuff. Indiana's got probably the better roster talent-wise. I don't think there's any question.
Probably.
Right. Not any question. Okay, fine.
Yeah, I mean, I think Indiana's roster in the Big Ten is the best one. Especially after why, it's just a matter of, how Woodson's able to manage the egos that are in that locker room, which he's shown he can do. I mean, he did that when he was with the Knicks. He's had to massage some egos a little bit. But how's the sustainability factor going to be for the Hoosiers this year? I think it's very possible the talent could carry him to the second weekend.
Can they shoot the ball?
I am actually a little bit more of a buyer on some of these guys who can shoot it. I think Miles Rice is going to shoot the ball well this year. I think Luke Goody is going to shoot the ball well. I think they're going to have enough. And Malik Renew, Big Taco, you would think he'd be able to hit some shots too. But you look at some of those different guys, I feel like Malik Renew, it took everything I had. It took everything I had not to have him as Big Ten preseason player of the year, because even after watching their game against Tennessee, where in the exhibition, you see the fluidity, the size, the strength, the ability to step out and shoot. Only made 15 threes last year. I bet that number goes up this season. How he's able to play with Ballo, it just makes sense in the Big Ten. I think they're in for a monster year and can very well win the regular season in that league. And once you get that confidence, things can snowball and roll forward. So I would pick Indiana ahead of Purdue. I think Purdue, there's going to be times this year where, Fletcher Loyer was picked on the Jerry West, shooting guard of the year watch list or whatever this is. Guys, I am really intrigued to see how that goes. And I'm not trying to take shots at Purdue because Matt Painter's great. And Braden Smith, he's a lot quicker than people realize. And I think he's a really tough sucker. I wonder how it's going to go for Fletcher Loyer, who's been inconsistent during his time at Purdue. But at the same time, he's also solely relied on Braden and Zach Edey to get shots. How's it going to be when he's a little bit more of a focal point? I think that's a big spot. And can he be consistent all season long? I'm worried about that. I don't think that's something that just comes naturally overnight just because you get handed a little bit more responsibility. I don't know that he can create on his own. But what I am confident in, and you guys will attest to this, you said you lean on coaches in these preseason polls. I'll lean on Matt Painter to get those guys shots. And the playbook is going to be much more open this year for the Boilermakers because they don't have this massive five in the middle that's one of the all-time great college basketball players. So the playbook's going to be open. How can they find shots with a backcourt that Braden Smith's quick, not very big. Fletcher Lawyer's big enough. He's not very athletic. So, I'm a little worried about how this team is going to do over the course of 30-something odd games.
I'll have my take on Indiana in just a little bit. We got something coming up. Okay. Fanta, that's what we call a tease.
There you go, Rob. Look at that that's mid-season form right there. I was gonna tease and say, yeah.
So since we're talking about Indiana, let's not talk about Indiana. That's a stupid tease.
Exactly.
Like we're talking about Indiana.
That tease, but we'll see. We'll see if Dauster can pull it off.
Circle back.
We have no idea.
We're gonna find out.
Since we're talking about them, let's not talk about them.
I was gonna tease and say, so this year is Indiana's roster more talented than UConn's, but that tease probably doesn't work as well. But coming in,
honestly, it might be.
I think it is.
There's an argument to be made there.
Coming in at number 17. Coming in at number 17, Texas A&M. Marquette is 18th. Tyler Kolek, Oso Ighodaro gone, but it feels like there's a lot of national respect for the Golden Eagles that they're still ranked 18th in the country. Florida, Elijah Martin, the Gators. Is this the year that we see Todd Golden break through? We'll see. At 20 is Cincinnati. Dan Skillings and Simas Lukosius and that roster, really interesting. And then let's fill out the rest of our top 25. The Xavier Musketeers, this is a crosstown shootout if I've ever seen one. They're actually tied with Cincinnati in the points. We're going to get to this because this is going to create some good discussion. Ole Miss feels like they're underrated at 22. Kentucky is 23rd. UCLA is 24th. And the Ohio State Buckeyes are 25th. So, Rob, I'm going to come back to you on this since Jeff and Terrence talked a lot about Indiana and Purdue. The remainder of our top 25, what do you agree with? What's something perhaps maybe you disagree with? And who could be underranked in this?
I agree with you on Ole Miss. I feel like they are they're old, they're versatile, they're talented. They go about 8 deep, and they got a guy by the name of Chris Beard coaching with a guy by the name of Mark Adams on his staff. And they're going to find a way to defend. They're going to find a way to score. They just beat the brakes off of Illinois in an exhibition, and they have everything that you kind of look for out of it, like multiple point guards. They got shooting. They got big, versatile wings. They got old guys. They got veterans. I think that they're going to end up being a team that competes for the in and around like the top 15 all year. I don't know if competing for the SEC championship is probably too far because I think it's Alabama's to win, but they're going to be right there with everybody else to finish in the top 2. I'm surprised, guys, that there's no Oregon in the top 25. We talked about this a little bit yesterday on the DTF pod, Fan and TO. But with Jackson Shellstad coming back and some of the guys they got coming in, and TJ Bamba's what I expect to be a resurgence, it just feels like not having an Oregon team in the top 25 with that much talent playing in the Big Ten that kind of fits what they do with Dana Altman as coach. Like that feels like a little bit of a miss for us. But at the same time, it's kind of hard to peg someone to drop. I feel like there's a lot of really good teams in college basketball this year.
Jeff, you look at the rest of this top 25 here. Xavier and Cincinnati are evened up at 20. I mean, that's a debate right off the bat that I think is fascinating. I think more than anything, that rivalry is going to be back this year. And Wes Miller, this is a crucial year. He's been building up for this season to really break through. And they're in a tough Big 12. Like, how many teams would be ranked 20th in a preseason top 25, Jeff, but they're going to be like 6th or 7th in their league?
Yeah, no, Wes has done a great job there, getting them back. And again, retention was really important for them this year. And they added, some good pieces. I think Dylan Mitchell is going to help them, a good amount, not in terms of scoring, but in terms of the high flying athlete. If he buys into what he does best, which is kind of honestly be a 4 undersized 5 and, don't try to show something that you can't do, which is shooting threes, and just lean into what you do great, which is rebound, run the floor, finish. I think Cincy could be really good. I picked Xavier as, one of those dark horse teams. To me, Sean's got depth, although he's already got hit a little bit by the injury bug, but he's got Zach Fremantle back. He's got Jerome Hunter back, added Ryan Comwell, one of the best transfers in the portal. And I picked Ole Miss preseason 14th. And in Chris Beard, I just believe in the dude as a coach. I mean, how can you not with what he's done? Even a couple of years ago, before he got fired at Texas, look at the team he had assembled and what they could have done with Chris Beard coaching that team as a head coach. Who knows, right? Last year, you give him a little bit of a mulligan in his first year at Ole Miss, but this dude's one of the most he's one of the best coaches in the game, and he's shown that with what he did at Texas Tech and Little Rock and obviously at the start of Texas.
T.O.'s got Ole Miss one of the championship this year.
Ole Miss can make the Elite Eight.
Yeah.
You saw them dog walk Illinois and the kind of ball pressure they played with. Matthew Morrell has been one of the underappreciated wing players in the SEC for a couple of years now. Like, he's really, really good. And then you add Sean Padula, who's got some pit bull in him, comes from Virginia Tech with Mike Young. I like the addition of Michael Brown-Jones. Like, these guys, they will hound you defensively, and they
have
switch.
bigs. They got bigs that can actually score a little bit now. Last year, their bigs couldn't score on you and me.
Yeah, it's huge. But I just sit there and I look at this backcourt, like between those two guys. It could very well be the best backcourt in the SEC, and people just aren't looking at it that way. And I can't figure out a reason why, outside of them just living in Oxford. Like that's the crazy thing. Like, are we going to give Ole Miss enough attention before it's too late and everybody goes, well, where'd they come from? Well, they've been here. They've been here. And Chris Beard is phenomenal when it comes to year two. Hey, guys, we talk Big East all the time. I'm sure we're going to throw St. John's in the mix at some point in this show. But year two Pitino's a great one. Year two Beard is something different. And he is right there in the conversation with year two Pitino. So look at how his teams have done in the second year, wherever he's been at, like Jeff alluded to, and they're going to be elite. And not only could they compete with Alabama, they could win the SEC as a dark horse team, win the SEC because they just stack win after win after win. And even on nights where Morrell and Padula don't shoot it well, they still have those other options able to score. I'm a buyer on Ole Miss, and not only am I a buyer, I think they could win the SEC tournament because of how they play, and they could make it to the second weekend and win a game. That's where I'm at on Ole Miss. I'm a buyer.
They have 8 guys that averaged double figures last season. 5 of them are transfers, but 8 guys that scoring is not going to be an issue for them. They got so many guys that could fill it up. The issue is, do they have enough basketballs to go around?
Yeah, that's a great point. At some point, I think it's such an interesting thing in this sport, because for a roster like Ole Miss, there's going to be an odd man out. But if you're making this type of money, or you're getting paid, then you better warm that bench to the very best of your abilities. But that's a reality with some of these teams. Before we break, Kentucky is 23rd. Is that correct, Jeff?
Yeah, I mean, I'm fine with that. 20 to 40. I think you could put Kentucky there. You could put Louisville there. I know Dauster would probably put Louisville in the top 10. I don't think they're that. I think Kentucky and Louisville, it's a coin flip right now. And that's what makes right now, it gives college basketball another added layer that it hasn't had in a while, right? Like that Kentucky-Louisville rivalry was garbage the last couple of years because, frankly, Kenny Payne had that program garbage the last couple of years. So now Pat Kelsey's got it back to where they're respectable. Obviously, Mark Pope, will see what he does in Lexington. They've both got good rosters, not overpoweringly good, but like deep rosters that have a lot of good older college basketball players. So they'll both be competitive every night. The question is, can one of them can they make a run come March? Can one of them get in a roll, stay healthy, and maybe find a guy out of their group?
Great stuff.
Shit, I think Kentucky's good, man. Like we look at those pieces, like we don't give Lamont Butler enough credit for what he is as a pure point guard. We're not giving. Did we forget about Kirk Kriisa? We just forget about him. He quit going to bars in Tucson, and then all of a sudden, we don't hear from him. Hear his name out of Jeff Goodman's mouth for 2 years.
Huh? He lost 100 games last year. Why? Of course, we forgot about him. He played at West Virginia. They were horrible. We shouldn't have heard about him.
Was that his fault?
Partially, sure. Yeah. Partially.
Might have been like 5% his fault. I'm not willing to throw that on the young man. Hey, Jackson Robinson's going to be good. I like Kobe Brea, who shot like 47%. Kentucky's going to be good. They're going to win 2 games, and then the AP is going to try to put them in the top 10. That's just what's going to happen. So, I think, I think they're going to be fine.
Rob, before we break, you got 60 seconds here. Go ahead.
It'll be a little more than 60 seconds. I'm going to apologize to Dagan Hughes before we get started here. I have a list of the 10 teams that are capable of winning the national championship this year. All right. This is my list.
This is what he was teasing, Jeff.
The only 10 teams that can win the national championship.
I'm Rob Dauster, and I'm going to give you a list of 47 teams that could win the national championship.
Yep. 10 teams. These are the 10 teams that
it's all the biggest fan bases here.
No, it's not.
Oh,
Alabama, Kansas, obviously, right? You got to get them in there. I have Gonzaga and I have Duke, who have already, T.O. and I have already said are probably going to make the Final Four, right? Or are capable of making the Final Four. I think those 4 are we've already talked about those. UConn, obviously, in that mix. Okay, there's your 5 right there. I have Houston and I have Baylor. All right, 2 more teams from the Big 12. But that's it from the Big 12. I got no Iowa State on my list. I got no Arizona on my list. I have Auburn for the simple reason that Auburn, for the majority of the time, is going to have the best player on the court in a 5-man, and I'm betting on one of those guards to be able to figure it out for Auburn this year.
Yeah, that's not gonna happen.
So there's my top 8 right there. Okay, these last 2 might surprise you. One of them is going to be Arkansas. Okay, I'm in on Arkansas this year. I'm buying Arkansas this year. I see what they did to Kansas in that exhibition. I know that Hunter Dickinson wasn't on the floor, but seeing Boogie Fland and DJ Wagner go out there and play the way that they did together kind of turned my head a little bit. Look, it's an exhibition. It doesn't matter all that much. But if those 2 are going to play anywhere close to that level, it completely changes what I think that team can end up being. I also thought it was very interesting. Janelle Davis had 5 points in that exhibition. All the hype for Jim. Yeah, the hype for Nelly Davis looks like maybe it might have been too much. And then the last team I have on my list is the Indiana Hoosiers. And I feel like that's one where Goodman is going to look at me and say, you're out of your mind. You're crazy. But what I will say is this, okay? With all of the criticisms that we had for them last year, one of the biggest issues that they had was at the point guard spot, right? And what did they go out and they do? They went out and they got one of the best point guards in the portal in Miles Rice, who was very good against a very good defense in Tennessee. So I think that when you add in with the issues that you had with them offensively and the spacing and the scoring and all that, you add in a point guard, I think that can change a lot of those problems.
Listen, I'm with you. They're talented. It's going to be tough to screw it up. I want to see it to believe it. I want to see that they have perimeter shooting. I want to see that they play Mackenzie Mbako at the 4 for long stretches. Until I see those 2 things, I would never, ever, ever put Indiana as a legitimate national title contender. If that changes, okay, maybe.
All I need, there's one thing I need in my life right now, is for Indiana to become a top 10 team, to make it to the Final Four, and to
be a top 10 team. They're going to be a top 10 team. Have you seen their non-conference schedule? It's just like their football team.
I can't wait to bring this.
We're going to break.
Back.
We'll be back with All-Americans after this.
If you haven't heard by now, we have partnered with BetMGM Sportsbook. We're going to be using BetMGM lines to make all of our picks, and we'll have special offers for the listeners, the viewers of the Field of 68 throughout the year. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, you can use bonus code FIELD, and you will get up to a $1,500 first bet offer on your first wager with BetMGM. The best part, all you need to do is deposit and bet $10 of your own hard-earned money to be eligible. Here's how you make it work. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using that bonus code FIELD. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game, and you will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure that you use that bonus code FIELD when you sign up. BetMGM is going to have some fun offers available throughout the NBA playoffs. Bet insurance tokens, odds boost, and what I love, a nice parlay booster too from time to time, as well as a ridiculous array of player prop bets for any sport that you could possibly imagine betting on. BetMGM is and always will be the king of the prop bet. So go download the BetMGM app, use the bonus code FIELD, and sign up today. And while I've got you, a quick request. The best way to support the Field of 68 content that you get for free is to engage with us. Rate and review the podcast. Like and share the YouTube videos. Tell your friends about us. It all helps in a world where the algorithm is king. And now, back to the show.
Welcome back to Field of 68 After Dark. In the break, we heard a nickname I've never heard in my life, and I don't know if I'll ever hear it again, but we're certainly not gonna broadcast it here. Hey, a reminder, the Field of 68 showcase. Yes, you could start the season with 9+ hours of Rob, Jeff, and the gang on Monday from Sioux Falls, South Dakota, high noon, Charleston in Southern Illinois will start a brand new triple header to college basketball's opening day, which has lacked the buzz and lacked the zest. And on Monday, you're all going to be able to watch the Field of 68 showcase all day long for free, starting at noon across our platforms. It's time for consensus All-American teams, okay? Here is what our All-American first team looks like. Alabama's Mark Sears, who is our preseason player of the year. I've heard so many people talk about this. That's not even a debate. He's the preseason player of the year. RJ Davis, Cooper Flagg, Hunter Dickinson, and Ryan Kalkbrenner. Now, you think about Cooper Flagg, he's trying to become just the fourth freshman to ever win National Player of the Year. And the company is strong with Zion Williamson, Anthony Davis, and Kevin Durant in on that. So you look at that first team, that's been widely broadcast regardless of what platform you're with. Let's look at the second team here, because this is where I think the debate starts. Let's look at the second team, okay? The second team of our preseason All-Americans is Braden Smith of Purdue, Cam Jones of Marquette, Caleb Love at Arizona, Alex Caravan at UConn, and Janai Broom at Auburn. All right, Rob, let's start with you. Do you agree with all this? Anywhere that you don't? And one of the debates is some of the guards here, are they all warranting of top 10 slots?
I would personally have a couple of the guys that we have on our third team, which we'll get to in a second, over Caleb Love in that spot. And I think that there's a real discussion to be had about, Janai Broom versus Ryan Kalkbrenner versus Alex Caravan versus Cooper Flagg and who you want where on the preseason first team. But I don't think that it's wrong. Like, I think that there's a clear cut, like, top 7 in terms of the All-American polls, and whoever you have on the first team, you're going to pick 5 of them, and there's going to be a very strong argument for all of them. So the only one that I would have is probably Caleb Love on the third team, and I would bump personally either LJ Cryer or Tamin Lipsey up to the second team.
Yep.
Jeff, you're nodding.
Yeah, I agree. I would put Lipsey over. I might even put Lipsey as a first or second team preseason All-American for what he does overall. He's not flashy, so people are going to look at that and criticize it. But the dude guards like nobody else on these teams. That's the one differentiator for me with him and Caleb Love. Obviously, Caleb Love can heat it up, but he doesn't guard like Lipsey. He doesn't lead like Lipsey. I would put Lipsey up there. I would probably not have Caleb Love on any of my preseason. I know that sounds crazy, but I'm shocked.
Yeah, I'm shocked.
I know.
Tio's on mute.
I think he's a top 20 player in the country. I don't think – and the beauty, guys, this year –
he was Pac-12 player of the year. What are we doing? He was Pac-12 player of the year last year.
The Pac-12 was a mid-major league last year.
That's a wild take, but I'll allow it. I do agree with you.
But
at the same time, like the dude has scored everywhere he's been. He's been awesome. He's going to be awesome again this year. I have him on second team. The one that I mixed up, I put Cam Jones on third. I put Wade Taylor on second because I think Wade Taylor is a bucket and he's fun to watch, and they're going to go as far as he allows them to go. I'm a big fan of him.
Theo loves buckets. That's what we figured out.
I'm a big buckets guy. You got to score. Hey, guys, the game isn't decided. Hey, Jeff, the game isn't decided by the team that gets the most stops. The game isn't decided by the team who gets the most stops. You got to score. Not many people. A lot of people can guard. Not that many people can freaking score. Wade Taylor can score. Like you have to be able to score to win games.
He can. Here's the only thing I'll say, real quick, Fanta. The only thing I'll say: the idea that you would have the audacity, you would have the nerve. You would have the cojones to put Cam Jones, the Field of 68's fashion correspondent, on your third-team All-American team is blasphemous. Okay, unbelievable. I'm telling Shaka. Yeah, I'm telling Shaka he's going to pick you up.
He's a third-team All-American.
Yeah, he is. I think
you act like I'm disrespecting the guy. He's a third-team All-American. He's going to have to play. He's going to have to play a position he's never played before.
He was the third best player on his team last year. Now he's a top 10 player in America. He's on my third team. So is Kadari Richmond. Kadari Richmond's on my third team, too. He's not on our All-American teams. We have 5 guards. You know who else I had as an All-American that's not on this third team? Umar Ballo. Yeah, I said it. I think he's going to be a double-double machine. He's going to dominate in the Big Ten, but he's not on there. Great Osabor's not on here either. Here's the third team. Wade Taylor, Taman Lipsey, John L. Davis, Hunter Salas, and L.J. Cryer. It's a guards game. We got basically 5 guys who are doing that. Hunter Salas
missed on John L. Davis.
John L. Davis is there. T.O., what do you think? I'm glad that Hunter Salas gets some cred.
I did throw Hunter Salas in there, Cam Jones on my third team. Taman Lipsey's on my third team as well. I got 2 other ones that I think are going to have great years. Bruce Thornton at Ohio State. If they're good and Diebler puts them together, he's going to be a monster. I think Ohio State is kind of just lying in the weeds there. We have to see if Diebler can coach, but I think it's very possible those guys are in the top 3 to 4 in the Big Ten, and Thornton's going to be a big piece. One under-the-radar guy that I think is going to be huge this year and be very much in an All-American conversation if we pay enough attention to him, Donovan Dent at New Mexico. He is going to put up crazy numbers with Jamal Mashburn Jr. transferring out, and then also Jalen House out of the picture now. Donovan Dent's going to be a monster. He's going to play 35 minutes a game, and Richard Pitino might get him to win another Mountain West Conference championship. Like, he is that good, and I could see that happening.
I got one more I want to add to the mix that we haven't mentioned yet, and that's Ryan Nembhard at Gonzaga. I think if Gonzaga is as good as we expect them to be, it's so much of what Mark Few does is the point guard and the 5-man, right? A lot of ball screens, a lot of duck-ins. I think that Ryan Nembhard's going to have a big year. I think he's going to be more efficient than he was last season because he's not going to have to take as many difficult shots. And the last one that I'll add, Ryan Conwell. Keep an eye on them. Keep an eye on that name.
I got one more, and then I'll throw it to you to close, Fanta. Norchad Ormier. He could average 20 and 10 this year. Like, his numbers could be ridiculous. Hardest playing big man in college basketball.
Third best player on his team.
I'll add 2. Jackson Robinson at Kentucky. If Kentucky takes off, Jackson Robinson could be that type of guy. How about Tyson Degenhart at Boise State? Boise State just seems like they've been in the tournament the last 3 years. They've been so consistent. You like Tyson?
Love him. I love him too because I was invited on this podcast and Dauster was not.
That was bullshit. That was bullshit.
That's enough for a third-team All-American.
Tyson, I am still upset about
a reason.
Move over, Caleb Love. Tyson Degenhart, you're on my third-team All-American list because you invited me on your show. That's it. That's going to do it for us here. Preseason All-Americans, preseason top 25. We all know next week, you can feel in your veins, right? Somebody's going to lose in that top 15 or top 20, and we're all going to be like, what the? That's this sport. It's crazy. It's fun. It's why if you could give me a betting ticket to say 1 or 2 of the Final Four will be teams that are unranked. Why not in this crazy sport that is college basketball? That's why we love it, and it's going to be a blast of a season. For Rob, Jeff, and T.O., I'm John Fanta. Thanks for watching After Dark, and don't miss the Field of 68 opening day showcase.